Most churches will teach you how to be humble, patient, and grateful. And yes, these are priceless virtues. But almost no one will tell you that the Bible also holds a blueprint for building wealth that honors God and transforms generations. You've probably been taught that desiring prosperity is dangerous or selfish. Yet the truth is far more liberating and far more challenging. What if playing small isn't holy but disobedient? What if your lack isn't humility but a missed opportunity to impact lives? Imagine waking up every day knowing your business isn't just surviving but thriving. Funding kingdom causes, blessing your family, and proving to the world that faith and prosperity can walk hand in hand. Picture finally breaking free from the quiet guilt that whispers you're not supposed to make money as a believer. You'll discover that God doesn't merely tolerate your desire to prosper. He designed it, as long as your heart stays anchored in His purpose. In the next few minutes, you'll uncover 7 biblical laws most pastors never talk about. Laws that explain why some Christians struggle financially while others quietly multiply their resources. Laws that will show you exactly how to step into abundance without losing your soul. This isn't about chasing riches. It's about reclaiming your calling and learning to prosper God's way. If you've ever felt torn between faith and ambition, you're not alone. But by the end of this journey, you'll see that you were never meant to choose between them. You were created to blend them into a life of meaning, freedom, and impact. So lean in, take notes, and prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew about wealth. Because what you're about to learn could be the spark that ignites your next season of divine growth, and the legacy your children will thank you for. The law of multiplication, from seed to overflow. Many believers were taught to be content with little, but the Bible is packed with examples of God taking small things and multiplying them into abundance. Think about the widow in 2 Kings 4. Her tiny jar of oil became an enterprise that paid her debts and sustained her family. The same God who multiplied her resources can multiply what you have in your Christian business today. When you look at your skills or your bank account and think it's too little, remember, God delights in multiplying seeds, not fully grown trees. In a godly business, the seed could be a humble idea, a first client, or a modest investment. What matters is that you plant it with expectation, not fear. If you've been sitting on an idea because it feels too small, that's often the very seed God plans to multiply. Take the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fish in Matthew 14. It was the offering of a boy that Jesus used to feed thousands. Your willingness to offer what you have opens the door to supernatural increase. Sometimes the reason people never see multiplication is that they confuse hoarding with stewardship. Saving money is wise, but clinging to it out of fear chokes the life out of your faith. Proverbs 11:24 says, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty." If you want to make money in alignment with biblical principles, you must learn to release what you have when God prompts you. Generosity is the catalyst for multiplication. One practical way to step into this law is to set aside a percentage of every dollar you make and sow it intentionally. You don't need to wait until you're rich. Even if it's $10, designate part of it to bless others or invest in your calling. Read The Blessed Life by Robert Morris. This book unpacks the power of giving in a way that can transform your mindset. Multiplication often starts when you dare to part with the seed you're tempted to keep. Another dimension of this law is multiplying your knowledge. If you want your Christian business to grow, keep learning. Take courses on marketing or finance, listen to podcasts about godly business strategies, and read books by Christian entrepreneurs. Knowledge is a seed too. As Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." The more you invest in learning, the more God can expand your influence and income. Remember, the law of multiplication doesn't end with money. It applies to relationships, skills, and influence. When you encourage someone, you're planting words that can grow into confidence and purpose. When you mentor a younger entrepreneur, you're multiplying wisdom. Everything in God's kingdom moves from seed to overflow. And once you grasp this, you'll be ready to discover why the next law is just as essential for lasting prosperity. The law of stewardship, managing what heaven entrusts you. Stewardship isn't just about balancing a budget, it's about honoring God with every resource He places in your hands. In Luke 16:10, Jesus said, "Whoever is faithful with little will also be faithful with much." That means your Christian business is a proving ground for greater blessings. If you've been praying for God to expand your influence and income, start by examining how you're managing what you already have. Are you organized, intentional, and grateful? Those qualities are the soil where prosperity grows. One mistake many believers make is thinking stewardship is only about tithing. While giving is vital, stewardship goes further. It's how you handle your time, relationships, and skills. Imagine a godly business owner who pays tithes but neglects customer service or ignores invoices. That's not good stewardship. Excellence honors God. Proverbs 27:23 says, "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks." In today's terms, that means understanding your cash flow, your client needs, and your business obligations. If you want to make money without losing your peace, create simple systems to track every dollar. You don't need expensive software. Start with a spreadsheet or a budgeting app. Categorize your expenses, set financial goals, and review them monthly. When you steward well, you'll be amazed how much clarity and confidence you gain. Remember, God can't bless chaos. Order is a form of worship that attracts His favor. Stewardship also means managing your energy and priorities. Are you giving your best hours to your calling, or wasting them on distractions? One practical step is to block the first hour of your workday for tasks that grow your Christian business, like prospecting, creating content, or nurturing partnerships. When you treat your business hours as sacred, you signal to God and to yourself that you value what He entrusted to you. Another aspect of stewardship is protecting what you've built. This could mean setting aside an emergency fund, getting the right insurance, or forming an LLC to limit liability. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." Planning ahead doesn't show a lack of faith, it shows maturity. When you protect your resources, you're demonstrating that you expect God to keep increasing them. The truth is, stewardship isn't a one-time action, it's a lifestyle. Every day you'll have opportunities to prove that you're trustworthy with heaven's resources. And when you consistently steward what you have, you'll find God trusts you with even more. That's why the next law we're about to explore builds directly on this foundation of faithful management. The law of generational wealth, building legacy beyond yourself. Too often, Christians shy away from the idea of building wealth that lasts beyond their lifetime, as if it were selfish or materialistic. But Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." That's not just about money. It's about creating a foundation of values, opportunities, and resources that empower future generations. Your Christian business can become the channel through which God blesses your family long after you're gone. Building generational wealth starts with vision. You can't leave a legacy you never defined. Take time to write down what you want your children and grandchildren to inherit, not only financially but spiritually and intellectually. Do you want them to own businesses, support ministries, or fund missions? Clarity creates momentum. The clearer your picture, the more purposeful your decisions will be. Practically speaking, setting up structures to protect your wealth is essential. Consider establishing a trust or a will to ensure your assets don't get tangled in legal disputes. Many godly business owners overlook this step, only to have their life's work dissipate after they're gone. If you're unsure where to start, read Family Wealth by James E. Hughes, Jr. It's a powerful guide on preserving both financial and spiritual heritage. Generational wealth isn't only about dollars. It's also about teaching stewardship to your children. Invite them into conversations about money early on. Show them how you budget, invest, and give. Let them see that making money is a tool for advancing God's purposes. When they understand the why, they'll be more prepared to honor your legacy instead of squandering it. Another practical step is to create income streams that endure. Rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, and royalties can all be part of a wealth-building strategy that outlives you. For example, investing in companies like Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble, which have a history of consistent dividends, can provide stability. When you diversify your income, you safeguard your legacy against market swings. Remember, your life is bigger than you. Every act of faith, every dollar sown, every lesson shared becomes a seed that can bear fruit for generations. And when you embrace this responsibility, you'll be ready to explore the next law, one that will challenge you to take action with diligence and determination. The law of diligence, godly business, requires relentless action. Some believers hope wealth will fall into their laps just because they prayed, but the Bible is clear. Faith without works is dead. Proverbs 10:4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." This law isn't about hustle for the sake of ego. It's about honoring God by taking relentless action. If you want your Christian business to grow, you can't afford to dabble. You must commit to showing up daily, even when motivation is low. Diligence doesn't mean working nonstop without rest. It means working with purpose, focus, and consistency. Think about the ant in Proverbs 6:8. No one forces it to store food, but it prepares diligently because it understands seasons. In your business, diligence might look like dedicating an hour every morning to prospecting or refining your offers. Little actions done faithfully compound into massive results over time. A practical way to cultivate diligence is to set clear, measurable goals. Instead of saying, "I want to make more money," define exactly how much you want to earn and by when. Break it into weekly milestones and track your progress. Use a simple planner or an app like Trello. When you see your actions moving the needle, you'll be more inspired to keep going. God blesses clarity and effort that align with His purpose. Another important aspect is guarding your mind against discouragement. Even diligent people face setbacks, lost clients, failed campaigns, unexpected bills. That's why Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Surround yourself with voices that build you up, mentors, podcasts, and communities of godly business owners who remind you why you started. Humor can also keep you resilient. Laugh at your mistakes, learn from them, and get back in the game. When King Solomon wrote about diligence, he understood that progress isn't always glamorous. Sometimes, it looks like sending the 20th follow-up email or revising a proposal one more time. Those unglamorous tasks are the bridge between vision and victory. Ultimately, diligence is an act of worship. Every time you honor your commitments and refuse to quit, you testify to the world that God can trust you with more. And once you've tasted the fruit of consistent effort, you'll understand why the next law, seeking wise counsel, is just as crucial for multiplying your impact. The law of wise counsel: never build alone. It's tempting to think you can figure everything out on your own, especially when you've read a few books or watched some success stories. But Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." Even the most skilled Christian business owners need voices of wisdom around them. God never designed you to build wealth in isolation. He designed you for community and mentorship. One practical step is to form an advisory board, even if it's informal. This could be a small group of trusted believers who have experience in finance, marketing, or leadership. They don't have to be famous, just committed to seeing you thrive. Make it a point to meet monthly and discuss your goals, your challenges, and your next moves. Their perspective will often reveal blind spots you can't see. Seeking wise counsel also means being teachable. Pride can be the biggest enemy of a godly business. When someone with more experience gives you feedback, resist the urge to defend yourself. Proverbs 12:15 says, "The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice." Write down what you hear. Pray over it. Ask God which pieces to apply. Humility will open doors that hustle alone never will. Another way to access counsel is by investing in courses or coaching. Don't think of it as a cost. Think of it as fertilizer for your growth. Whether it's a program on how to make money through online marketing or a workshop on biblical financial principles, every new insight adds a layer of strength to your foundation. For example, consider taking Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University or following Christian mentors like John Maxwell. Wise counsel also helps you avoid costly mistakes. Maybe you're considering a risky investment, a new product launch, or a business partnership. Before you act, talk it through with people you trust. Their questions might feel uncomfortable, but they can save you months or years of regret. Remember, your destiny is too important to gamble on untested ideas. And as you grow, become wise counsel for someone else. The law of sowing and reaping applies here too. When you pour into others, God often sends the exact help you need in return. Once you embrace this truth, you'll see why the next law, stepping out in faith-driven risk, is what transforms preparation into breakthrough. The law of faith-driven risk, trusting God in your investments. Most people think faith is just about praying quietly in a corner, but real faith often looks like taking bold, scary action. Hebrews 11:8 says, "By faith Abraham obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going." That's the picture of faith-driven risk. In your Christian business, you'll be called to step out when everything in you wants to stay safe. God doesn't grow your wealth in comfort zones. He grows it when you trust Him enough to act. Taking faith-driven risk doesn't mean being reckless. It means you've prayed, sought wise counsel, done your research, and then moved forward with courage. Maybe God is prompting you to launch a new service, invest in a property, or finally write that book. If you wait until every detail feels perfect, you'll wait forever. Remember Ecclesiastes 11:4, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant." If you want to make money that honors God, you must plant your seeds, even in uncertain weather. A practical example of faith-driven risk is starting small investments you've been postponing. Perhaps you've thought about buying dividend stocks like Coca-Cola or Procter & Gamble. Maybe you've wanted to invest in real estate syndication or crowd-funded projects. Begin with an amount you can afford to risk. When you move in faith, God often multiplies your obedience in ways you couldn't predict. Fear will always whisper reasons to stay put. What if you fail? What will people think? But 2 Timothy 1:7 reminds us, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. When you step out, you declare that God is bigger than any obstacle. Faith-driven risk isn't about proving yourself. It's about proving that you trust Him more than your comfort. Keep in mind that every risk carries lessons. Some will bring profit, others will bring wisdom, but none will be wasted if you stay surrendered. If an idea fails, it doesn't mean you missed God. It means He's preparing you for something better. Your resilience becomes a testimony that inspires others in their godly business journey. As you learn to embrace these leaps of faith, you'll build a track record of courage that fuels your next season. And when you're standing in your promised land, you'll see why taking risks in obedience was always worth it. That's exactly why the final law, aligning your wealth with kingdom purpose, brings everything full circle. The law of kingdom. Purpose. Wealth that serves a divine mission. Many people spend their lives making money without ever asking why. But in God's economy, wealth isn't an end, it's a means to fulfill His purposes. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Your Christian business exists not only to provide for you, but to advance God's kingdom in ways only you can. When you connect your profits to His mission, your work gains eternal significance. One practical step is to define the impact you want to make. Do you feel called to fund missionaries, support single mothers, or create jobs in your community? Write down the vision. A godly business without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, busy but directionless. When you know the why, you'll find it easier to persevere through challenges because your efforts aren't just about more money, they're about more meaning. Kingdom purpose also means seeing your customers as people God cares about, not just transactions. When you serve them with integrity and compassion, you reflect Christ's love. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." Before you launch a product or service, ask, does this solve real problems? Does it honor God? That mindset transforms ordinary work into worship. A powerful example is the story of Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. He built a billion-dollar business rooted in biblical principles, closing on Sundays and investing in scholarships for employees. His wealth wasn't just about expansion, it was about kingdom impact. You don't have to be a billionaire to make a difference. Start by dedicating a percentage of your profits to causes that align with your faith. Remember, purpose fuels perseverance. When setbacks come, and they always do, it's your commitment to God's mission that keeps you moving forward. Your vision becomes a lighthouse when storms hit. As you align your business goals with heaven's agenda, you create a legacy that outlives you. And once you understand that wealth is simply a tool in God's hands, you'll realize you're never alone in this journey. The same God who called you to build will equip you to sustain and multiply. And now, as you stand ready to apply these 7 laws, there's only one thing left to do. Surrender your plans to the one who gave you the dream in the first place. You've just walked through 7 biblical laws that most Christians will never hear in a Sunday sermon. But now that you know them, the real question is, what will you do next? Will you let this wisdom collect dust like another forgotten note? Or will you take action and finally build the godly business you've been dreaming about? What would change in your life if you committed to applying even one of these principles this week? What if your finances could become the loudest testimony of God's faithfulness in your generation? What if your willingness to step out in faith inspired someone else to do the same? Imagine the impact you could create when you stop apologizing for wanting to prosper and start embracing your calling with boldness. Because the truth is, God never asked you to play small. He asked you to be faithful. Write in the comments, "I am ready to honor God with my finances," and watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances from this day forward. So I challenge you to pick the law that resonated most with your spirit and make it practical today, whether it's multiplying your skills, sowing a seed, or seeking wise counsel. Don't wait. Your future self And your children will thank you. Which of these 7 laws feels like the missing key you've been searching for? And if this message spoke to your heart, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. Every gift helps us create more resources to equip believers like you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another teaching that could unlock your next breakthrough.